Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. We have a great docket for you today. Let's see what we're going to be talking about. First, more delays in the Vallow-Daybell matter, and what does it mean? Second, will Derek Chauvin testify for the prosecution or the defense? Yes, it's the start of that long-anticipated trial. Mr. Avenatti scamming Stormy Daniels of $300,000, allegedly. More indictments for Alec Murdaugh. That's right, gets even worse. A little bit of Brian Laundrie, Gabby Petito updates. 3 Mothers of the Year contenders. Don't mess with grandma. And finally, our dumb criminal of the day. Let's talk about it. Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. It's Monday, January 24th, 2022. Now, if you haven't done so, please hit that subscribe button. Hit that little bell so you receive notifications of when we go live and put up new content. And remember, tomorrow is Tuesday. And what does that mean? That's right. That's the After Dark edition of Crime Talk. And we may have a guest. We're trying to finalize that. It'll either be this week or next, but either way, it's going to be worth the watch. All right, let's get to the docket. Let's talk Lori Vallow and Daybell. Now, a hearing has been scheduled in the Daybell matter, and that hearing is now scheduled for January 27th at 9:30 a.m. What, pray tell, Scott, is the motion that is going to be heard? It's going to be a motion to extend the time to file 12B6 motions. Now, this motion has been pending by the defense now for a little over a year, and the continued complaint and the allegations for the necessity for further delay has always been that, well, there's been a lot of discovery in this case and the grand jury transcripts were not being timely produced. Well, we are literally now several years into this case. I hate to say it, either Mr. Pryor in this particular case has a motion for 12B6, which basically says this whole thing should be dismissed. There's no probable cause, and we know that's not going to be the case. So if you got something, file it, but if you don't have it, don't file it. But let's move something along. And of course, we're going to have a motion to continue the hearing that's already been set that'll more than likely be delayed. The other thing, at least from this point, is that there's been no notice in the Lori Vallow matter. And what does that mean? Well, it means she's still at the state hospital. And although I have not seen the report because it is under seal, and the only people that are going to get that report are going to be the prosecutors, the judge, and the defense attorneys, my guess is the fact that Lori Vallow and her counsel were not given notice of this hearing where they've ultimately been joined or will be joined. Well, it makes me think that the report says that Lori Vallow is not competent to proceed. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see, but as of right now, that's where things stand. All right, next on the docket, Derek Chauvin. Well, his 3 fellow police officers, opening statements began today. And the question's going to be, will Derek Chauvin testify for the prosecution or the defense? So the 3 former police officers, Alexander Koenig, Thomas Lane, and Tao, who allegedly helped Derek Chauvin restrain George Floyd, are set to stand trial in federal courtroom starting today. Opening statements started today. And they're charged with violating Mr. Floyd's civil rights. Now, the trio are charged with deprivation of rights under color of law for allegedly failing to give Floyd medical aid back on May 25th of 2020. And Tal and Koenig are also charged with failing to intervene in Chauvin's use of unreasonable forces he kneed on Floyd's neck and back for over 9 minutes. Now, Koenig, Legg, and Tao have pled not guilty to the federal charges, while Chauvin admitted to guilt in December as part of a plea deal. That's where it gets interesting. Now, the trial of Koenig, Lane, and Tao will have similar evidence as in Chauvin's trial last year, but this trial will not be televised because federal courts don't allow cameras in the courtroom. Let's get into the modern times federal court, please. Now, Tao had been an officer for more than 8 years, while Lane and Koenig were rookie officers with only a few days of experience. Now, the federal case is separate from the state charges for Mr. Floyd's death. Koenig, Legg, and Tao have pled not guilty to state charges of aiding and abetting and that trial is tentatively set for June. Now, where does it get really interesting? Could you imagine being on the job a few days and next thing you know, you're going to spend probably the next several decades in prison because you didn't intervene to a much senior police officer who was supposed to be training you? Well, the interesting part about this case is that will Derek Chauvin be testifying for the prosecution or defense? All sides have endorsed Derek Chauvin, and you would think that maybe Derek Chauvin would step up and say, hey, it was all me. These guys deserve to go home. It's on me. They weren't going to tell me what to do. Bottom line, that's it. Well, if he does that, kind of takes away all of his state appellate rights. Nobody really cares because he's already pled guilty to the federal violation of civil rights, where he's going to get probably a concurrent 25-year sentence with the state case. So the question is, could he testify for the prosecution? And now, as you may recall, the prosecution and the defense in Derek Chauvin's case spending a lot of time and very artfully drafted the statements supporting his plea of guilty. Although the statement says that Derek Chauvin was the one who placed his, obviously, knee on the neck of George Floyd, it also states that none of the other officers intervened. That could cut both ways. So it's one of those cases where I would think the defense, unless they know that Derek Chauvin is going to get up and fall on his sword for all of his fellow officers, you don't want him anywhere near that trial. You want to blame him and say it was Derek Chauvin, it was Derek Chauvin, it was Derek Chauvin. Put your clients up on the stand, make them say, hey, what are they supposed to do? Intervene, say stop, please. What am I supposed to do? Tackle him? Easier said than done. It's easy to do, armchair quarterback, but you had to be there and understand the circumstances. That's what the defense would probably do. I don't think the prosecution wants to associate themselves in any way with Derek Chauvin whatsoever. So I think they're not going to call him. Now, obviously, we'll have to wait and see. He's an endorsed witness. You never know what's going to happen at trial. But normally what you anticipate happening at trial happens. So we'll let you know how things turn out. Next on the docket, bring out the three-ring circus. The trial with the disgraced lawyer Michael Avenatti regarding his criminal theft case of monies from Stormy Daniels is beginning. That's right. Michael Avenatti was condemned in opening statements as a desperate for money lawyer who stole from his client, and as he faces trial, which started today, for the $300,000 from adult film star Stormy Daniels. Prosecutors tore into Avenatti as he appeared at a Manhattan courthouse on Monday, accused of stealing book proceeds from Miss Daniels by forging her signature on a letter to the agent. Now, it's alleged that the defendant stole almost $300,000 from the person he was supposed to be looking out for, according to federal prosecutors. And the prosecutor said in his opening statement, the defense attorney, John Dalek, fired back that Daniels just did not want to hold up her end of the contract that she in fact signed, which is basically, she's just a disgruntled client. It's alleged that Avenatti reportedly told Daniels he wouldn't take a penny of the money. He was, however, to be paid a percentage, which was to be agreed upon for any help with the deal. Now, the prosecutor said that Daniels will testify during the trial and alleged Avenatti lied to her, telling her via text the agency wasn't paying her when he had actually pocketed the funds for himself. The prosecutors also note that the case should not focus on Miss Daniels' profession, but instead that the fraud that was allegedly committed. Now, according to the indictment, Avenatti used the embezzled funds to purchase, that's right, a new Ferrari to pay for airfare and hotel stays, as well as to cover the salaries of employees working at both his law firm as well as his now defunct coffee business. However, the defense alleges Daniels failed to provide Avenatti with the agreed upon compensation, helping her with her 2018 memoir, Full Disclosure. Now, Avenatti faces charges of wire fraud and aggravated identity theft and has pled not guilty. He faces up to 22 years if he is convicted on this charge. As you remember, he was also convicted and has been sentenced in regards to the alleged, no, actually, I guess it's not even alleged, his actual extortion of Nike for $20 million. That's right, a lot of money. And his case out in California was resulted in a mistrial where he once again was allegedly stealing funds, and he still has actions pending before the State Bar of California. That's right. When it rains, it pours. It just keeps coming down. Just like for this next guy, when it rains, it pours. Alex Murdaugh. The state grand jury has handed down not one, not two, not three, but 4 new indictments against Alex Murdaugh, bringing his total charges to 74. I've been doing criminal defense for a while, ladies and gentlemen, but when you have 74 counts, that is a tough number to beat, okay? It's a lot easier to beat 1 or 2 counts than 74. Something of that 74 is going to stick. So an additional $2.2 million has been added to the total amount that Murdaugh allegedly is accused of stealing from his clients, which now brings that total to more than $8.4 million. The new indictments show that Murdaugh's alleged schemes go back to at least 2011. Ooh, who told you that? Who called that? And my guess is it would go back even farther if they kept looking. They're probably going to stop at a certain point because, well, it's just going to get so old and there's going to be so many cases. The indictments also include more information about the role the Palmetto State Bank had in Murdaugh's alleged schemes. And lastly, the indictment includes the case of Hakeem Pinky, a client of Murdaugh's who died in 2011 after his ventilator was unplugged. Now, Murdaugh remains behind bars at the Richland County Detention Center in lieu of a $7 million bond, and he's been named as a person of interest in the murders of his wife and son, Maggie and Paul. Please go to CrimeTalkSearch.com, sign up for a background subscription service. You'll be happy you did. If there's anyone out there you were ever curious about what was in their background, now is the time to do it. If you're going to get involved with somebody, now is the time to do it. When you go to CrimeTalkSearch.com, you put in the name, literally millions of public records are searched, and a report is generated. And it's going to give you a report. If they have multiple social media accounts, you're going to find it. If they have multiple phone numbers, multiple email addresses, it's going to be found. And more importantly, you're going to get information regarding criminal history. Hopefully the person you're searching has none whatsoever. But if it's there, it's going to be found. You're going to get everything you'd want to know, whether you're going into business or whether you're going into a personal relationship. You're going to be able to find out the information you want to know. So go to CrimeTalkSearch.com, sign up today. You'll be happy you did. All right, next on the docket, a quick update on the Brian Laundrie, Gabby Petito matter. As I'm sure you've all heard last week, and we didn't do a show Friday because, well, I was in a marathon meeting and frankly just couldn't have done a show last Friday. Anyway, according to the FBI, Brian Laundrie wrote in a notebook that he was responsible for Gabby Petito's death. Shocking, right? We all knew that. Now, a review of the notebook revealed written statements by Mr. Laundrie claiming responsibility for Miss Petito's death, according to the FBI's Denver field office in a statement that was released Friday. The notebook was discovered in October in the same area where Mr. Laundrie's remains were found. Petito and Laundrie's families have reached an agreement on how the couple's belonging, including the notebook, will be distributed. That's according to family attorneys. Now, there's been no information as to how the notebook survived the some months out in the elements because, as you may recall, the police stated that the remains of Brian Laundrie were completely decomposed given the weather and more than likely the fact that there were animals and things of that nature out there. So it's unclear if this notebook was somehow preserved because it was in, I don't know, a Ziploc baggie or something, or in the backpack somehow it remained intact so that the FBI could in fact take a look at and see if that was in fact Brian Laundrie's writing. I'm assuming they looked at handwriting samples, but given the fact that it was near Mr. Laundrie, seems pretty reasonable that it was in fact his writing, his notebook, and he apparently confessed to what everybody knew, or at least had a pretty good hunch of, that he was guilty for the murder of Gabby Petito. All right, next on the docket, a somewhat more reoccurring theme here that we have on the show, and that's Mothers of the Year. I guess we can include parents as well. An Ohio mom is facing child endangerment charges after being accused of kicking her 2 kids out during a snowstorm. Police say they were called to the Warren, Ohio home of 38-year-old Eva Harris just after 8 a.m. over a fight between the woman and her 17-year-old daughter. When the police arrived, they could hear a fight taking place inside the residence. Harris said her daughter needed to go because she had been disrespectful to her and poured a drink on her. Then a girl in a thin jacket emerged, apparently with a trash bag of her belongings and crying, "I have nowhere to go." At this time, there was more than 18 inches of snow on the ground and the temps were in the teens. Police took the teen to the local police station, but were soon summoned back to the house after a report that Harris had also kicked out her 16-year-old son. Police say they found him outside the home, also with a garbage bag full of his stuff. Police contacted the Trumbull County Child Services, then decided to arrest Harris after she wouldn't answer the door. She was finally taken into custody about 9:45 a.m. Harris was released from custody later Monday on her own recognizance and arraigned on Tuesday. She faces 2 counts of child endangerment, to which she pled not guilty. She's next due in court on March 1st. Quick lesson here, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, there is usually in most states a defense called parental discipline. You have to be careful because it varies, but you can use reasonable force. Now, my experience is parents make great juries when the defense is parental discipline, and the children that are being disciplined, well, are teenagers, usually disrespectful, out of control teenagers. Now we got a Virginia mom who's also in the running. Police in Virginia say that a woman has been charged after she claimed she would show up to a school board meeting with a loaded, that's right, yep, if children were required to wear a mask. That's right. For those of you that listen on the podcast, we can't say that word because it really upsets the YouTube censors, but it starts with a G and rhymes with run. Hint, hint, wink, wink. So the police say that Amelia King, 42 of Laundrie, Virginia, was charged with making an oral threat while on school property Friday afternoon. The board has been debating COVID-19 mitigation measures in light of the new Governor Glenn Youngkin's executive orders. On January 15th, his first day in office, Youngkin issued an executive order saying parents could decide whether their children had to wear a face mask in school. Now, during public comment section, Ms. King said, "My children will not come to school on Monday with a mask, all right? That's not going to happen. And I will bring every single, rhymes with run, loaded and ready. I will call every blank." King was then cut off for the going over the 3-minute time limit, and she replied, "I'll see you on Monday." They all thought she was going to have, that's right, rhymes with run. As a result of the comments, the school board said they would increase police presence at the school on Friday and Monday. In an email to the board read aloud at the end of the meeting, King apologized and said she was mortified. "I in no way meant to imply that all things that rhymes with run, loaded as in actual firearms, but rather all resources I can muster to make sure that my children get to attend school without masks." She reportedly said in that email, "I would never do such a thing. I was speaking figuratively." The board ultimately decided in a 4-2 vote to make masking the choice of the parents, and masks would be required for all staff and anyone on school buses. However, parents will be required to sign an opt-out form if they did not want their children wearing masks in school. The board will still require students returning from quarantine to be masked regardless of parents' choice. Kind of curious as to why you have to sign something that's not against the law. I mean, usually we have people that have been convicted of something and you have to sign something and let them know what your position is, like, I don't know, registering as a sex offender. Just saying. And while we're on the subjects of Moms of the Year contestants, how about a Connecticut mom? Investigators say a Connecticut mother left her 2 children at home while she vacationed with her boyfriend in Florida. Carrie Kaviaska allegedly told her children to stay in the residence basement and just to eat candy for dinner. Police began investigating Kaviaska after her ex-husband reported that she had left the children, ages 9 and 11, alone in her Watertown residence. Kaviaska, who has primary custody of the boy and girl, is also a middle school teacher. Of course she is. Now, the Mother of the Year sent a pretty incriminating texts, including, Both of you stay in the basement and just saying downstairs. When one child asks, are we going into school? No, right? ? Kavyaska replied, no. On a Sunday evening, when one of the children asked, what are we going to have for dinner? Kavyaska answered, just eat some candy, I'm sorry, and whatever is downstairs. She added, quote, I'll make it up to you, end quote. When one of the minors asked, can I go to the restroom? Kavyaska replied, quick, no lights. Now, when police last month confronted Kavyaska, she admitted spending a weekend in Florida with her boyfriend, but claimed that her brother had stayed with the children. Both juveniles, however, told the police that they were left home unsupervised. Kavyaska's son told police that his mother left snacks to eat and that she ordered Uber Eats for the children several times. Now, Miss Kavyaska, being a school teacher yourself, imagine how simple it would be for the police simply to ask your brother if you had in fact taken care of the children. I'm not sure to make you the dumb criminal or the mother of the year. Either way, though, I think you've got a prize coming your way. All right, next on the docket, don't mess with grandma. A grandmother from Long Island, New York, helped catch an elder scammer after the man called her, claiming he was her grandson who needed money for bail after being arrested for DUI. The woman, who's only identifies herself as Jean, she knew it was a scam because she knew that she doesn't have a grandson who drives. Instead of hanging up the phone, the retired 911 operator decided to play along and lure him into a trap. Video recorded by the former 911 operator doorbell shows two Nassau County police officers tackling the suspect elder scammer as he runs away to leave Jean's house, carrying with him an envelope stuffed with paper towels instead of cash. Good for her. Don't mess with grandma taking money from little old people. Not nice, just bad thing to do. Next, our dumb criminal contestant of the day. Another airline incident. A Delta passenger could face up to 20 years in prison for allegedly assaulting a crew member during an anti-mask tantrum for the record books. On an 8-hour flight from Dublin, Ireland to New York City, Irish resident Shane McInerney boarded Delta Flight 45 with strong disagreements to U.S. federal regulations mandating that he wear a mask. His final destination was Florida, where he was taking a job teaching soccer at an academy in Daytona. Now, in a case that has been under seal, authorities say that Shane refused to comply despite being asked dozens of times by the flight crew personnel, according to the FBI affidavit supporting in the criminal complaint. An irate Shane wound up throwing an empty beverage can at another passenger, mooned a flight attendant, before the plane landed at JFK International Airport. Further descriptions in the affidavit say that after hitting the head of a passenger described as Individual 1 with an empty can, Shane kicked the back seat in front of him, disturbing Individual 2, according to the prosecutors. He then allegedly walked up from his economy class seat to the Delta first class section in front of him, where he complained about the foot to another passenger and a flight attendant, according to the FBI. When he was escorted back to his seat, Shane pulled down his pants and underwear and exposed his buttocks to flight attendants identified as Individual 3 and passengers sitting nearby. The FBI identifies the captain as Individual 4, who tried to mollify Shane. Approximately 2 hours into the flight, Individual 4, the captain, was on the break and spoke with the defendant. During the conversation, the defendant twice took off his cap, placed the cap on the Individual 4's head, and removed it from Individual 4's head. The defendant also put one of his fists up close to Individual 4's face and said, "Don't touch me." Authorities say that the disruption continued to the bitter end. Shane, 29 and a resident of Galloway, Ireland, is charged with interference with a flight crew and attendance, and Shane made his initial appearance in the Brooklyn Federal Courthouse on January 14th, where he was released on a $20,000 bond. This is just another case of alleged air rage, ladies and gentlemen. Shane, perhaps a few too many Guinness stouts. I don't know. Is that what they drink in Ireland, or is that just what we think they drink there? I'm not sure. But, dude, like, seriously, leave the flight attendants and the crew alone. They're just doing their job, for goodness sakes. And now you're looking at getting a felony conviction, deported, losing your job, and spending 20 years in prison. Congratulations, you've made it to the dumb criminal contestant of the day. Congratulations. All right, that's all we have for you today. Thanks for watching. Please remember to join us tomorrow night for our live show, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. We'll see you then.